Yes.
How are we supposed to have a relationship with God or Jesus or whatever if he's like not here?
Good. Jesus is here, but he's in the form of the Holy Spirit, who is a spiritual being.
Like a ghost? Because I don't believe in ghosts.
Right. I don't believe in ghosts either, in the sense of Casper. But I think it's real clear that there are spiritual beings that exist. If you have a hard time believing that, I would encourage you to read M. Scott Peck, the great psychiatrist's book called People of the Lie. And in this book, People of the Lie, M. Scott Peck argues that American psychiatry should have a branch called evil. And what his point is when you look at something like the My Lai massacre, when you watch American soldiers slaughter some Asian people during the My Lai massacre, you're dealing with something more than just human evil. You're dealing with some type of spiritual force. And so that's why M. Scott Peck, the great psychiatrist, makes the point American psychiatry should have a branch of evil. Now, have I ever seen your brain?
No.
No. Have I ever smelled your brain?
No.
Have I ever touched your brain?
No.
Why would I believe that you have a brain?
Because all people have a brain?
Well, yeah, that might be part of it, but the real reason that I believe you have a brain is because your articulate speech, the way you dress yourself in an orderly fashion.
So if people who aren't able to do that, are you saying that they don't have a brain?
No. You could be brain
Because
impaired.
if that's how you define me having a brain, then how would someone who isn't able to do that have a brain?
Right. My point is, I can't see God. And people snicker and say, well, then you're an idiot for believing in God. Ma'am, I can't see your brain, but the evidence of your articulate speech, the evidence of the way you dress yourself in an orderly fashion, convinces me that between your two beautiful ears lies a brain. Similarly, I cannot see God. I cannot touch God. I cannot hear God audibly. But the order and the design of the universe, the order and design of the human body, convinces me that there is some type of God who creates order out of chaos, who creates reason when there is no reason. Yes, ma'am.
So why would a good God, if you're saying God is so good, why would he allow, all this bad stuff to go on? There's so much bad stuff, like rape, kids with cancer, people dying. Why would a good God allow all of this to go on? How do you explain that?
You bet. Ultimately, I do not know why God allowed evil and suffering. But I do know that God created you and me with a free will. He created us to love him. And love, in order to be real, must be free. If it's not free, it's not love. In other words, I'm convinced a computer and a robot cannot love. But you can, I can, because we're human beings created with a free will. If you have to love, that's not love. Love is a free decision of the human will and mind to care about somebody else's well-being. And I don't have to care about your well-being. I don't have to lift a finger to help you, regardless of how badly you're suffering. Or I can choose to help you and to care for you.
So couldn't God choose to help us?
And that's exactly what Jesus Christ revealed. God has chosen to help us in a myriad of different ways, but most clearly, God has chosen to help us by becoming man in Jesus Christ, who comes on a rescue mission to save us. I need saving. Why? Because I have a date with death. Jesus Christ comes to bring eternal life. Stuart, what would you say to that?
Well, piece two, why does God allow suffering, just in general? A big part of it is when I look at the question of suffering and evil, I have to say, why does it bug me so much? Because a lot of atheists that I encounter will say, well, because we've just evolved higher than animals, because animals really don't get caught up in this question of suffering. And then you get into the question of consciousness. Okay, we think about our thinking. We think about abstract ideas, meaning and purpose in this life. So why does suffering really get to us so much? Because we're created in the image of God. We were created in order for us to be able to have perfect relationships, in order for us to flourish in such a way where there's not decay and breakdown in the environment, cosmically, socially, psychologically. Think about all the depression and anxiety, bipolar on this campus. It was not meant to be. So it makes way more sense from a Christian perspective to say, okay, there's breakdown based off of our own free will, and we did turn to go in an opposite direction from how God created this place and for us to actually tick and work. And when that happens, things go amok. But we say that's not good. And so to understand that there's truly meaning and purpose in this life, you have to have a good God, and you have to have a life that goes on forever, immortality, in a way where things will be actually put right again. We all long for that, and it makes sense if there is a God. If there is no God, then it's ridiculous for us to even really be struggling with this so much.
So you're saying there was once a world where there was no evil? It was perfect?
Right.
When was
Exactly.
that? When was that?
That would be Adam and Eve. So
But there was evil in Adam and Eve.
there was evil in Adam and Eve eventually, right? Exactly. When you had the tree, Adam and Eve decided, okay, we're not going to trust. It's not that they didn't believe in God when they grabbed that apple. It's that they didn't believe that God had their best in mind, then they grabbed that apple.
Wait, why did they grab it? Why did they take it?
Because they started to think, God does not want me to be happy. He actually wants me to be a type of perhaps puppet on a string. It's not like they all of a sudden stopped believing in God and said, God, you don't exist anyway, so we're just going to do this. No, and that strikes directly in my own heart, probably y'all's as well, because we struggle with, God, why do you tell me I actually have to submit to your will? Don't I lose my identity in trying to somehow conform to your will? That's the crux of the issue.
That's the devil putting those ideas in your head. The
But
devil
who's to say our God is the right God? Because I personally don't identify with the religion, but I do believe in a higher being and a higher power. But I don't personally believe in like the whole Jesus Christ thing or all those stories, because that easily could have been made up. And that's just my personal opinion. You can prove me wrong, you can prove it right. I just believe that there is a higher being at the end of all of this. But really, who's to say, like, how to live if you're just a good person? Like, why not just be a good person? Why follow the rules?
Yeah. Great question. I loved how you framed it too. One piece where you and I could potentially agree on is this: I'm not going to prove it to you. You couldn't prove your position to me, because it's an existential, philosophical question. There's evidence behind it, and we want to land on where is the best evidence. Then we take a step of trust. Just like in marriage to a man or a woman, it's you weigh the evidence as to, is this person reliable? Do I love them? Why do I love them? And then you have to take a step of trust and faith. And for many people that I counsel, later on, they really regret it, because the evidence actually was lacking, where they thought it was truly there and this person was credible. So you have to look at the existence of God, and more specifically, to your good question, the existence of Christ, and was he truly who he claimed to be? Or if not, then totally discard him. It's like Bono said of U2. He said, you either are going to say, God, I worship you, Jesus Christ, I worship you, or you're going to nail him to a cross. But there's never kind of this vanilla, neutral approach to Jesus with his claims that he made to be God. It's either no, he needs to die, he was a manic, crazy, lunatic, or he's calling me to worship him, and he actually did create the universe, so it would make a lot of sense to worship him. Now, you talked about this kind of power. We hear that oftentimes. There's a power out there, higher than me. There's a force. Okay, you're definitely partly there. We're closer than, say, an atheist and I, or an atheist and you. But I believe in God because I believe you need to have a personal being who relates personally with you. You can't get the personal from the impersonal. It makes sense that there's a personal, perhaps, force, you would say, out there, but I would say being. There'd have to be a being who loves you, who created you in his image, who gives you value, rather than you standing out here trying to say, you know, I've worked X, Y, and Z, I have attained X, Y, and Z, so now I have worth. Then, once you get there, we'd have to split these questions up because they're very long questions are great questions. Jesus Christ, 98% of secular Christian scholars believe that Jesus Christ existed as a person. So that there's almost a consensus on that. But then you have to work into, are the Gospels reliable? The claims that he made about himself, are those true? And you get those 7 in the Gospel of John alone, and then Mark, Matthew, he's claiming to forgive sins. He takes worship. Is his character reliable? Because if he's God, you want him to have a pretty good character. You would expect that from God. And then is there evidence behind the resurrection? So reliability of the Gospels, are his claims real? Are his character good? And is there evidence behind the resurrection? And the real linchpin is evidence behind the resurrection. Was that historically reliable event, or is it just a joke? Are we out here just spitting fumes in such a way where there's no way somebody actually rose from the dead? We know that doesn't work. There's no evidence behind the resurrection. So it's just all a farce.